Hello, everyone. Welcome to CSI Detective Work 101, Day 1. My name is Miss Edwards, and I'll be the instructor for this course. I want to begin with just going over a few housekeeping things. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and we will begin with our Canvas page, which you should be familiar with, as it was how you got on to our page this morning. Okay, so I'm going to take it to our Canvas page for Camp Ignite. Okay, so when you logged in this morning to get to our class, you were on the home page. Your parent might have helped you with this, but then you scroll down to see the course catalog. Okay, so you can see the schedule there. And as I said, this is CSI, Crime Scene Investigators Detective Work 101. And once you click on that, then you clicked on your respective time that you wanted to join the class. I wanted to point out a few things. So if you scroll down from that page, you can see our daily schedule. Okay, so today, day 1, we're going to be doing an introduction to forensics and showing some videos on dusting for fingerprints and taking our own fingerprints. We will actually do that ourselves on day 4, but I wanted to demonstrate it for you and then have you have the opportunity to collect all the materials that you need, just in the event that you wanted to participate in that, and that will take place on Thursday, which will be day 4. Okay, and we're actually going to start. We're going to be doing 2 cases this week. One case is the slippery case of the sabotaged slide, and the other case is the case of the missing jewels. So we're actually going to start that first case of the sabotaged slide today, and then we will finish it tomorrow. So that's a little different than what the schedule says. But as you know, with these Zoom classes, you have to learn to be very flexible. If you keep scrolling down, you see a course material list. The things that you're going to need for sure are paper, pencil, a calculator, and a washable marker. Okay, so something that you can wash off of your hands. Optional material list, and this is just if you want to take part in the fingerprinting. You'll need a little bit of hand lotion, not much, some transparent or scotch tape, either a fine black powder, which is hard to find, or cocoa powder, which is used for baking. I bought mine at the dollar store for $2, I think. You're going to need a fine bristle brush, either a powder brush like ladies put their makeup on with, or a small paintbrush. You'll need a glass jar or a glass drinking glass, and blank white paper or a blank index card. So those are the things. You might grab a pair of rubber gloves while you're at it, but I'll show you those things. You'll see all of those things in the video. But I wanted to point that out to you so that if you want to take part in the fingerprinting on Thursday, that you can kind of be collecting these things, okay? All right, the next thing that you come to are Zoom meetings. If you were to have trouble clicking on the link above, if you just weren't able to get in that way, you could scroll down to here and then click on these links. Okay, so the first one is 9 o'clock, then the 11 o'clock class, and then the 12 o'clock. Okay, you only need to attend one of those classes. Okay, and then down at the very bottom is a section for additional resources. There's nothing loaded in here yet, but later on today, so by the time you guys are watching this Monday afternoon, or another time, there should be some information in here, and it will be links for things that you can click on that you might need to use to get our coursework finished. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out, that there will be things in the additional resources tab later on. Okay, all right, so that's a little bit about how to navigate around in our page. Let's go to the next thing, which is a PowerPoint that I've put together for you. And the first slide is just welcome to CSI Detective Work 101. And again, my name is Miss Edwards. Okay. All right, before we begin, there's some vocabulary words that we need to familiarize ourselves with. Some of these you will probably know. The first one is crime. A crime is an action by a person that is against the law. Okay, so something that someone does that is actually against the law. Burglary, not obeying traffic rules, those could be all crimes. A victim is a person deceived, done wrong, or harmed as a result of a crime, accident, or other action. Okay, so victims could be, someone could be a victim of an accident. Okay, something happened to them, it was completely an accident, it wasn't done intentionally. Okay, but for CSI, usually a victim is a person that is either tricked, lied to, done, wrong, or harmed by a crime that someone's committed. Okay, a suspect is a person thought to be guilty of a crime. Just keep in mind that a suspect, there's a saying in the police world, is that you are innocent until proven guilty. Okay, so a suspect is just a person that is thought might be guilty of a crime. They're not actually proven guilty yet. Okay, motive. Here's one that some of you may not know. A motive is a reason for doing something, especially one that is hidden or not obvious. Okay, so when someone commits a crime, there's usually a reason in their mind that they committed the crime. Okay, so that's the motive, what their reason is for committing the crime. Evidence is all the available facts or proof that an action happened. Okay, so fingerprints, DNA, which we'll get more into in a few minutes, videotape or pictures. Those are all examples of evidence that a crime scene investigator or a police officer might collect. Okay. All right, an alibi. An alibi is evidence that a person was somewhere else when a criminal act took place. Okay, so in this picture here, you can see that these people are at work. They're together. So if one of them was a suspect in a crime and they could prove that they weren't at the scene of the crime by having these other people say, yes, they were with me at that time, they couldn't have committed it. Okay, that would be their alibi. Okay, again, evidence that a person was somewhere else when a criminal act took place. Guilty. Guilty means you're responsible for wrongdoing. Okay. Culprit. A culprit is a person who is responsible for a crime or other misdeed. Okay, you can see this person right here. They broke into a window and looks like they're stealing a computer. Okay, so this person would be a culprit, caught red-handed. All right, forensics. Forensics is a science that is a lot like a game. It involves finding clues, piecing together a puzzle, and solving the mysteries left behind at a crime scene. So that's really what our class is based about this week. We're going to be talking about forensics and how detectives and scientists work together to solve a crime. All right, the last one is DNA. This can be very complicated, but I'm going to try to break it down to make it a little simpler for you. DNA is a substance found in cells that contains information about the characteristics of a living thing. DNA plays a part in the passing on of characteristics from parents to their offspring or their children. DNA is an abbreviation for deoxyribonucleic acid. That's very long, so I can see why they just call it DNA. Okay, all right, so our body is made up of millions and millions and millions of cells. Each cell has its own DNA. Okay, so DNA can be found in saliva, the moisture in your mouth, your skin, your hair, everywhere on your body. You have your own DNA, which is different from everyone else's. Okay. All right, so we'll get into a little bit more about that later. All right, crime scene protocol. Okay, these are the steps that every detective will take when they are investigating a crime, okay? The first one is to interview. When you interview, you talk to the police officers that are there, the victim if it's possible, and any witnesses to the crime. You're going to ask those questions, the 5 W's: who, what, where, when, and why. You're going to ask those questions and make notes when you're doing that so that you don't forget, okay? So that's the interview process. That's the very first thing you do. The next thing is to examine. When you examine, you look carefully for evidence. So at the crime scene, you're going to, without touching things, because when you touch things, you put your fingerprints on them, you're going to look carefully at all the evidence, all the proof that is there, okay? The next step is photograph. You're going to take pictures to document what the scene looks like and to document items of evidence. Photographs are very important because they help us remember what we saw, okay? You can write it down, you can kind of hold it in your mind, but if you have a photograph or a picture of it, it's going to really keep it fresh on your mind exactly what the crime scene looks like, okay? Sketch. You're going to make a drawing to show the overall view of the scene and to record the exact location of the evidence found at the crime scene, okay? So in addition to taking a photograph, which could be a close-up picture of, you know, a table turned over or a broken window, but a sketch is going to be a bigger view of the whole scene and exactly where things were found. And then the final step is to process. That means to identify, evaluate, and collect all the physical and the testimonial evidence, okay? Physical evidence are the things that you can touch and feel, okay? So fingerprints, hair found at the scene, things that maybe had been turned over, touched. That's all examples of physical evidence. Testimonial evidence are if there were any witnesses to the crime, you're going to write down or record what they say that they saw, okay? So that's what testimonial evidence is, okay? All right, so that's it for the vocabulary, things that you might, words that you might need to know, and then the crime scene protocol, what the detective or the forensic scientist needs to do when they come onto a crime scene. All right, let's go to the next thing. Since we were talking about fingerprinting, I'm going to just show you a very short 2-minute video about fingerprinting. And it is right here. Okay, so just pay attention for a couple of minutes and then we'll go to the next thing. All right, so dactyloscopy is actually the science of taking fingerprints. Okay, while we're on the subject of fingerprinting, let's go to our next thing that we need to do, and that's going to be showing you what we'll be doing when we're taking fingerprints, okay? Oops, here we go. All right, so this is actually dusting for fingerprints. So it's just gonna be a tutorial showing us how to do it. We're not gonna do it right now. You're just gonna watch it, and then you'll go back to your materials list on our Camp Ignite page and make sure that you have these things if you wanna participate in the dusting for fingerprints activity on day 4 of this week. Okay, so that's exactly a simplified version of what a detective does. Okay, a forensic scientist, they use specialized equipment. So those are just some things that you would probably have around your house that you could use to dust for fingerprints. Okay, again, we will do that on Thursday, day 4 this week. Okay, so that's dusting for fingerprints. We also will take our own fingerprints, okay? So we're gonna watch a little video here about how we can take fingerprints with some things that you might have around your home.
Squeaks is getting ready to tell me a riddle he heard. Okay, Squeaks, go ahead. What is something that you always have with you that you always leave behind? Not sure. Can I have a hint? The answer's right at the tips of my fingers? Wait, is the answer my fingerprints? Awesome! That was a great riddle, Squeaks. Fingerprints are the skin patterns on the ends of your fingers and thumbs. If you look closely at the tips of your fingers under a bright light, you'll see some bumps and ridges that make kind of a pattern. Those patterns have been with you your whole life, and they go with you everywhere. But the bumps and ridges also leave marks behind. You might have seen these marks on a mirror or window, or even on paper, if you've gotten marker or paint on your fingertips. But we always leave these fingerprint marks, even if we can't see them. That's because the skin that covers our bodies, including our fingers, makes sweat and oil. That sweat and oil mixes together and covers the tips of our fingers. When we touch something or pick it up, the sweat and oil get left behind and make a mark that looks a lot like the pattern on our fingertips. You can see this for yourself. All you need to check out one of your own fingerprints is a pencil, a piece of white paper, and some clear tape. First, tear off a piece of tape. It doesn't have to be too big, just enough to cover the tip of your finger. Put the tape on the table so that the sticky side is up. Then use the pencil to make a nice dark spot on the paper. Make it really dark. Now take your pointer finger and rub it on your forehead right next to your hairline. This will help to put some extra oil on that finger and to make a better fingerprint. Press your pointer finger on the pencil spot. Rock it back and forth like this. Now press your finger down onto the sticky side of the tape. Try to make sure you press straight down so you don't smudge your fingerprint. Carefully peel the tape off, stick it onto the clean side of the paper, and smooth it out gently. Can you see your fingerprint? Scientists have noticed that there are 3 main patterns in fingerprints: the arch, the loop, and the whirl. I think that mine looks like a whirl. Cool. And you know what's even cooler? Each of your fingers has a different pattern, and nobody else has fingerprints that are quite like yours. Your fingerprints are something that makes you different from every other person. When you get bigger, your fingerprints get bigger, but their patterns don't change. Your fingerprints are truly a body part that helps to make you, you. The fact that everyone has different fingerprints can also be pretty useful. The police can use fingerprints to solve crimes. Like if someone steals jewelry from a store, if they know the thieves touched the cabinets where they keep the diamonds, the police can figure out who did it by checking who has a matching fingerprint. You can also use a fingerprint kind of like a key or password. You've probably seen people do that to open up their phone or tablet. You're right, Squeaks. It is my turn to tell you a riddle. I think I'll use my fingerprint to open up my phone and see if I can find a good one. Thanks for joining us. If you want to keep learning and having fun with Squeaks and me, hit the subscribe button and don't forget to check us out on the YouTube Kids app. Thanks, and we'll see you next time here at the Fort.
All right. So that's all about fingerprinting. Just kind of be collecting those materials. Again, you can go to the Camp Ignite website and go down to the materials list and you can see all the things that you need there, okay? All right, let's move on. We're actually going to start our first case today. So it's the case of the sabotage slide. Sabotage, for those of you that aren't familiar with that word, sabotage just means ruined, okay? So something, if your plans get sabotaged, that means your plans were ruined, okay? You weren't able to do what you had planned to do because something or someone ruined those plans, okay? All right, Let me close out of some of this stuff just to get it out of my way. Okay. All right. So here's our first case. Summer is just around the corner and kids of all ages are ready to cool off and play in the city of Indianapolis. Unfortunately, the best water park in the country had to be shut down. Why and for how long? What happened? Slide on into the slippery case of the sabotage slide. Follow the sidewalk of clues and uncover Splattertown's slimy suspect. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we need to find out what happened. And instead of reading all of this to you right now, I've pre-recorded it. So we're gonna just go watch that. Pay attention to the details, such as what time things happened and who was there, okay? All right. Let me get to... Hello, fellow detectives. This is Detective Edwards reporting to you on what happened in the case of the sabotage slide. Welcome to Splattertown, the best water park in Indianapolis. Splattertown is a splashy water park where kids of all ages can enjoy all sorts of watery fun. There is an octopus slide with octa nozzles that shoot water at random times, a splatter zone for water gun play, an off-the-hook kiddie pool, and best of all, one of the tallest water slides in the country, the Squidly Express. The Squidly Express opened this year in May, and Splattertown is enjoying its best season ever. On Tuesday morning, Splattertown's top mechanic, Mr. Muzzlefish, learned that the Squidly Express had been sabotaged. He was doing a morning test run at 9:50 a.m. and discovered that someone filled the water pipes leading to the slide with some sort of ink or paint. When he turned on the water, all that filled the slide was a dark purple fluid that stained the entire attraction. He immediately contacted Shelby Sheppel, the new general manager. Shelby met him at the slide, and upon seeing the damage caused, she called the police. The water park was shut down. Detectives arrived on the scene. Mr. Muzzlefish informed the detectives that there were not any reports of problems with the ride from the night before. As a matter of fact, Shelby talked with the attendant as he shut it down around 8:00 p.m. the night before. There was no evidence of any forced entry into the park. Gates opened in the morning at 8:00 a.m. Using crime scene protocol, it's up to us to solve this case and get to the bottom of the sabotage slide. All right, so there it is. That's what happened, okay? So think about the things that you just heard, okay? Someone put some kind of ink into the new ride at the water park. So there's someone that doesn't want the park to be open, okay? All right, let's go to the next. All right, let's get to the next slide. So now that we know what happened, the next thing we have to do is the motive newsletter. So remember from our vocabulary that a motive is a reason, okay? So we have to think about who would have a reason to want the water slide to be ruined, okay? All right, so I'm gonna go back again. This is a lot of reading right here. So I'm gonna go back and we're just gonna listen to what I've pre-recorded, and then we're gonna take a look at our suspect list, okay? You'll be introduced to some of these suspects through this newsletter, okay? So there's 4 articles, and just take a listen, and then we'll come back and we will figure out which of these suspects have a motive or a reason to want to commit this crime, As part of the crime scene protocol, it is your job to seek a motive. Who would have had reason to want to sabotage the new slide at Splattertown? Look through the monthly newsletter for information. Who has a motive? Can you eliminate anyone that may not have a motive? Indianapolis Fair is coming to town. Applicants are now being accepted for part-time positions at the Indianapolis Fair. Former Splattertown employee Spike Slinger is managing the kiddie zone this year and said that they saw a decline in attendance last year. They are hoping more residents will support the fair. Spike believes the fair has much more to offer than the other local attractions and wants other families to know that the new snail mail ride is going to be a great addition, along with the kiddie zone's other 3 rides. Peachy Pinkler agreed. She used to work at Splattertown as well. She stressed that unlike other amusement parks, they ran safety tests 3 times a day. Families could be guaranteed a safe time at the fair. Okay, so we're going to pause it right there. There were 2 suspects mentioned in that article. One was Spike and the other one was Peachy. And both of them were former employees of the water park. So for some reason, they no longer work there. Do you think they may have a motive? If you're thinking that they do, you're correct. I think they probably have a motive. Just the fact that in that article, both of them were trying to convince the reader that they should come to the fair instead of going to the water park. Okay, so you can write those names down, or when we get to fill in the chart, just keep those names in mind. Spike and Peachy both have a motive. Protest held in support of closing water park. Indianapolis reporters were updated about a future protest being planned as an opening of Splattertown approaches. Organizer San Diego was interviewed and made this statement: "The water park is not good for our community. Children are being dropped off with no parent supervision. It's become a free-for-all. They are loud and unruly and leave the property a mess. Our property values have gone down because of this water park. We are fighting to shut it down and build a new library." Joining Sandy's effort is Bubbles Blowfish. Her boyfriend was a confessed amusement park junkie. She believes the community would be better off with a library as well. Okay, so we're going to pause it there. That article mentioned 2 other potential suspects. One was Sandy and the other one was Bubbles. Okay, and both of them spoke out against the water park. Sandy was organizing a protest against the water park because she said children are being dropped off, parents aren't there with them, and they're just trashing the place, leaving, not picking up their trash and putting it away. And then Bubbles also spoke out against it. So both of those would also be suspects. New rides set to open in May. Hang on, there's a new ride coming to Splattertown. Billed as the tallest and longest water slide in the country, the Squidly Express is anticipated to be a very popular attraction this summer. Newly appointed General Manager Shelby Shepley was as excited to share the details of the ride as she was to say how proud she was to be managing the park this year. She wanted to remind everyone that record crowds are anticipated. Get your annual passes now. Okay, so in that article there, it was about the opening of the water park. And Shelby, if you'll remember from the What Happened, she's the general manager. So she's in charge of the water park. Do you think she had a motive to want the water park to close? Probably not, since that's her job, is to run the water park. I really don't think that she would have a reason to want the water park to close, because that would mean that she wouldn't have a job. Okay, so we could probably put her down as not having a motive. Letter to the editor. Dear editor, I love this town, but I have to report that the local water park's newest addition appears to be very dangerous. I would like citizens to be aware of the dangers of riding such extreme attractions. Several injuries have occurred on rides just like the new Squidly Express. Neighbors, do your research before you allow your children on such dangerous rides. Signed, a concerned neighbor, Judd Jegalo. Okay, so that was the last article. And it was written by one of the suspects, Judd, and he is also speaking out about the dangers of such a tall water slide. Okay, all right, so here's our suspect list. Shelby, the general manager of the park, Sandy, a former employee, Spike, also a former employee, Judd, Peachy, and Bubbles. Okay, so do they have a motive? Type yes or no below. So if you make yourself a list of these suspects, then we can go over here and we can determine that everyone other than Shelby, who was the general manager, actually has some kind of motive, some reason why they would want the water park closed. So next to Shelby's name, we would put no, and then next to Sandy, Spike, Judd, Peaches, and Bubbles, we would write yes. So they have a motive. That doesn't mean that they did it. It's our job to find out who is guilty, okay? So we have to collect some more evidence. All right, let's go to the next screen. All right, so here's the interviews that were done, okay? Shelby says she met Mr. Musclefish at the gates at 8:00 a.m. She unlocked the gates and had a 45-minute meeting with him before he left to check on the equipment. She lived 15 minutes from Splattertown. Sandy at 8:30 left to go to Best Buy copy store and pick up posters. She ran some errands and did some grocery shopping. She was home at 10 o'clock. She lives 20 minutes from Splattertown. Okay, so looking at the time frame, we know that the gates of the park opened at 8:00 a.m. She's leaving to go to the store at 8:30. So there is something suspicious about that right there, okay, because her time lines up to where she could have gone to the park before she went to the store and done something to the slide. Spike says he worked at the fairgrounds from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Okay, he got to work at 8:55 a.m. Again, this lines up to where he could have gone to the water park before he reported to work. Judd left his house at 8:30 to visit his mother in the hospital. The hospital's 30 minutes away, so if he left his house at 8:30, he got to the hospital at 9 o'clock. Again, he would have had time to go by the water park before 8:30. Peachy met her friend for breakfast at 7:45, visited for an hour, and then went for a quick run. I was home by 10 o'clock a.m. in time for my favorite morning television show. She lives 10 minutes from Splattertown. So she met her friend at 7:45 a.m. But the park didn't open until 8:00 a.m. But it says they had breakfast for about an hour. So 7:45 to 8:45. So she actually could have had breakfast with her friend and then went by the park before she went for her run. And then the last one, I was babysitting, which is Bubbles. I was babysitting my neighbor's child. I walked to her. Let's see if I can move this out of the way. I was babysitting my neighbor's child. I walked to her house at 8:20 and babysat until about 1:00 p.m. But she was available before 8:20 to have gone to the park. She's about 15 minutes from Splattertown. Okay, so those are the interviews. Then when you go to the alibis, remember an alibi is you have evidence that you were somewhere else when the crime took place. Okay, so Shelby was meeting with Mr. Musclefish. He's not a suspect, but you know, so far she doesn't have a motive, but she is on the suspect list. But since she was with Mr. Musclefish, she has an alibi. She was with somebody else. Sandy was able to show the detectives a receipt where she went to the store. The receipt was marked at 8:40 a.m. But she could have been at the park at 8 o'clock when the gates opened, okay? So she would still be, she doesn't really have an alibi, okay? So she'd still be on our suspect list. Spike, they interviewed Spike's boss, who confirmed that he started work at 8:55. Again, he could have gone to the park at 8 o'clock, so he would still be on the suspect list. Judd, the nurse working the shift for Judd's mom that morning at the hospital, was able to confirm his arrival at 9:10 a.m. So he would still be on the suspect list because the park opened at 8 a.m. So he could have gone there before he went to visit his mother. Peachy's friend Pearl was able to confirm that they met with Peachy at 7:50. And then she had a receipt at the restaurant. They paid the bill at 8:55 a.m. She does recall Peachy telling her she was going for a run afterwards, but she doesn't know if she did or not. So Peachy doesn't have an alibi. She'd still be on the suspect list. Bubbles' neighbors confirmed that Bubbles was watching their daughter starting at 8:30 a.m. She doesn't have an alibi for where she was from 8 until 8:30 though. So she would remain on the suspect list. All right, so let's go. Did they have the opportunity? So Shelby would be a no. Sandy, Spike, Judd, Peachy, and Bubbles would all be a yes because they do not have an alibi for where they were when the park opened at 8 a.m. Is there anybody we can eliminate as not having a motive or the opportunity? If you're thinking Shelby, you'd be correct. The general manager, Shelby, she didn't have a motive, and she also had an alibi for where she was. She was with a person at the time that they think that the crime occurred, which was sometime between 8 o'clock in the morning and 9:10 when Mr. Musclefish was checking the ride, okay? So we could probably eliminate Shelby at this point. All right. More evidence. This is one of the things that if you would like to work on this a little bit later, okay, on your own, and then we will go over it tomorrow, okay? So we will come up with who else we can eliminate from our suspect list. So we're narrowing it down. We're down from 6 suspects. We're taking Shelby off of the suspect list. So we're narrowing it down. So I want to show you where you can, how you can kind of do this. All right, so here's what this looks like, and it can be found on the Camp Ignite Canvas page under other resources. Way down at the bottom, you can click on it, you can pull it up, you can print it, or you can just pull it up on your screen, okay? A plastic bag was found in the trash near the side gate of Splattertown. Inside, detectives found the following items: sunglasses, a pair of purple sweatpants, a light blue jacket, and a brown hat. Purple ink stained the jacket. The size on all of the clothing items was marked extra large. So there's a big clue right there. The clothing was extra large. So when you think about someone wearing clothes that are extra large inside, you think about like a bigger person, okay? So a person that's tall and that has some weight on them, you know, probably more than 150 pounds. Okay. All right. So if you use this logic puzzle here, and I'm just going to scroll down, my recommendation would be that you start with the clues. The clues are at the bottom. Start with number 6. Start from the bottom and work your way up. Okay. So what it says to do is in this chart, you put an X on the ones that it could not be, and then you put a circle in the ones that it could be. So that's a lot of X's and circles. So what I'm going to show you is just how I would go in and put a circle and leave all the other ones blank, okay? So if I start with number 6, it says the girl that is the shortest suspect has a name that starts with a B. So when you go up here, you look at the heights. 5 foot 4 inches, 6 foot 3 inches, 5 foot 8 inches, 5 foot 1 inch, 6 foot 2 inches. So the shortest one, her name starts with a B. So if you look at the names, there's only one name that starts with a B, okay? And the shortest height is the 5 foot 1 inch. So that's got to be it. So I would go and put a circle, or you can put a check mark, however you want to do it, next to Bubble's name. She's 5'1", and her name starts with a B, okay? Number 5, Judd is the second tallest suspect. He never wears jackets. He's twice the weight of Sandy. So we can go to Judd. We can look and see who's the second tallest. Well, the tallest is 6'3". So the second tallest is going to be 6'2". So we know that Judd is 6 feet and 2 inches. So put your circle or your check mark in there, okay? Now, we don't know how much Sandy weighs yet. So if Judd weighs twice what Sandy weighs, we got to go on up to number 4, where it tells us that Sandy weighs 118 pounds. So I just really am not doing anything down here right now. I'm working all going across the page. So we know Sandy is 118 pounds. And then it told us in clue number 5 that he's twice the weight of Sandy. So she's 118 pounds. You would add 118 together twice, or do 118 times 2 on your calculator, and you would discover that Judd is 236 pounds. Okay, so try number 3, 2, and 1 on your own. When you get to 2 and 1, there's going to be a man and a woman left. So think about, one is 6 foot tall, the other one is 5 foot tall. So when you think about men and women, you usually think about men being a little taller than women, grown men being a little taller than grown women. So kind of think about that. See if you can come up with the height and weight of each suspect, because we know that the person wore extra large clothing. So we can probably eliminate the shortest people and the people that weighed the least amount, because they probably would not wear extra large. Okay, so that's it for today. We're going to pick up tomorrow right here. We're going to go over the height and weight, and then we're going to go to our next clue. We're going to keep eliminating people until we find out who the culprit or the guilty party is. Okay, all right, thanks for joining today. I hope you guys enjoy your other courses, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day.